we're going to build on our knowledge of databases this week, building on the database that you started last week. So before we move on, let's just have a recall of previous knowledge, and the first couple relate to this topic. So what is all the information about an item called in a database? You can answer that. So if you think about all the different bits of information about one item, what is that called? And also, what data type would a phone number be? So think very careful about that. What is the data type that a phone number would be? Then thinking about photo editing, what tool selects all the area that is a certain colour? So choosing all the area that is the same colour. What tool would you use for that? And right back at the start of the year, what does this HTML tag do? So that's ahref. When would you use that? What does it do? So you can pause the video and answer those questions. Hopefully these are the answers you've got from your knowledge recall. So it's a record when all the information about a particular item, that's called a record. For a phone number, we would actually use text or short text because it's starts with a number 0 and it often has a space in it. We actually use that as text. Remember, we can't add up two telephone numbers to get to another telephone number. So it is text rather than a number. So text is the answer you should have there. If you're selecting all the colour of a particular type on an image, we use the magic wand. And the ahref relates to a hyperlink on a web page. So it's a hyperlink is your answer there. So hopefully you got 4 out of 4 for those questions. We're going to move on and we're going to look at developing your database today, creating the actual database if we haven't already done so, and then adding another element in called validation so that we do not make so many mistakes when we use our database. So that's what we're looking at doing today. So remember, we're creating a database about superheroes, and you can use some of these superheroes or other superheroes that you are familiar with and add this information into your database. So before we move on with developing your database, we need to remember what all the items in a row is called. And that is called a record, and that was in our knowledge organizer questions at the start. So a record when all the items related to one thing. So here, looking at record number 7, I've got Jaguar Jack, who's 18, colour he's grey, and number of legs, he has 4 legs. So in this zoo database, we'll look at that record. With the columns going down, we've got animal here, all these different animals. What are the following known as? And you might know this, but these are fields. So again, we did this last week. So we've got the number of legs field, where we can see all these animals have either 4 or 2 legs. So we've got our field names right at the top of our database. We've got our fields here and our records going across. So that's what you need to remember, these keywords: field names, records, and fields. So we're going to build up your database using the field names that you chose last week about your superheroes, and you might have name, age, hair colour, eye colour, gender, superpower, type of power, birthplace, and sidekick. You might have other fields that you want to add in. And just a reminder here of one of the most important buttons in a database. It's this button on the top left here, the design view button. And it changes the database between the design view, which we can see here. This is where we're building the database with the data types. And if we click it, it goes into the data view. So we can see the actual information. So you need to remember to use this button between the design view and the table view over and over again. So I'm just going to build up my database. This is my superhero database here. And what we can see when I open up my database that I saved previously, I have this enable content button. If I just click that, it'll allow me to actually work on my database. Now it looks as if I've got no work here. Can't see anything that I saved last week, but that's one of the objects on the side here, my table. So if I click my superheroes table, what should happen then is my information appears. So talking about the design view, this is my table. I've only got Batman and Robin in here. Batman, I've got some information about him. Robin's a bit younger. He's 18. His hair colour is, I think he has brown hair. And it's going to put brown eyes. Gender is male. He has no superpower, so I can leave this Boolean variable here unticked. And main type, he's also brave. I'm also going to put the Hulk in here. The Hulk is, I don't know his actual age, but I'm going to put 32. His hair colour is black. His eye colour is green. Gender is male. He has a superpower, so I'm going to tick that one. And his main type of superpower is strength. So I could add more superheroes in here, and I will as time goes on. In fact, let's add one more. Wonder Woman. Let's put a 20. Hair colour is brown. Eye colour is brown. Female. She has a superpower. And so strength is one of her superpowers. She has others. She can fly and so on. But I've put a main one down as strength. So that's the information. I can click the design view, which goes back into this. So I've got my ID, looking at my fields, I've got ID, superhero name, which is short text, age is short text. In fact, I can change age to a number. Hair colour is short text, eye colour is short text, gender is short text, superpower is a yes or no, that's my Boolean, whether I tick it or not, and my main power. So I can click save and click yes. So change my view. Everything's fine still as it should be. So this is me creating my database. I can build up on my database as I go along. So that's what you're looking to create, more information in your database as you're working. So you're inserting the records onto your table. Right, the next thing I want to talk about is something called validation. So if something is valid, it means it's good, it's okay, it's right, it's the way we want it to be. And that's what validation is. So we're going to add a validation rule to our database. So if I just bring my database back in here and go into my design view, I can go to any of my fields that I want to validate. My example here to start with is looking at gender, of which I can validate male or female, or I can look at I'm going to validate my hair colour. So I've clicked on hair colour, and my validation rule, I just put a speech marks in there. It's a little bit hard to see, but down here I've just typed speech marks and I'm writing black or speech marks brown, or I'm actually going to put green in, or blonde. So each one of my words is going into a speech marks. Blonde, or I could have grey, or I'm going to put blue in just in case. We sometimes have superheroes with blue hair. We can go back and add more to these as we go. My validation text is a message that I want to appear if I do not enter one of those. So I'm just going to put, this is not a valid hair colour. Okay, and I'm just going to click save as I go. It's telling me my integrity rules have changed. I can click yes, I know they have because I've just changed them myself. So that is building up the validation. And this is pretty much what I've just created. This is for gender. So we've got on the gender, make sure you clicked on the right field. And then the validation rule, in speech marks, anything that is allowed. So I've got M or F. And then your validation text is a message that's going to appear if you enter something wrong. And here's what the message is going to look like. So that's exactly what we've created. We've created on the gender one the rule that we're allowed, and then a message that will appear if we get it wrong. So this is where I've validated favorite color. So you can have favorite color into your database. And again, I've put my colors in here inside speech marks each one separated by the word or. So I'm allowed white or red or blue or grey or black or pink or green. And then underneath I've got this is not a valid colour. So we can see a little bit larger here how I've built up my validation rule and my validation text. And a message that appears when we get it wrong. So let's just go back to my database. This is my database here, and I'm just looking at mine. If we go back to hair colour, so I've got black, brown, green, blonde, grey or blue. I go back into my table and I'm just thinking of another superhero. So I'm going to go to Iron Man. Iron Man. So his age is 35. His hair colour is black. Now I'm going to spell this wrong. So I've spelt it B-L-A-K rather than B-L-A-C-K. When I click out into my next box, I get my error message. This is not a valid hair colour. So I can click OK, and I can't click out anywhere. And this is what people do. They try and go, there's an error, I click out, it's not letting me. But it means you have to go back into the one that's got the error, fix the error before you can move on. So that's exactly how validation works. Does he have a superpower? No. He's just Iron Man. He's just very clever. So there we go. So I can click save, and that will save my database as I've gone along. So in today's lesson, you are looking to add information in about superheroes into your table. And once you've done that, you can then add validation rules into the fields that will allow them to have them. If I think back to my database, there is no point me validating superhero name, because it could be anything. So I would not be able to write all the different possibilities. But I could validate hair colour, eye colour and gender, and maybe even the main types of superpower, although there are a lot of different superpowers, so you might not want to validate that. So remember to add evidence to your ePortfolio as you progress. Save your works. You are going to be needing your database next week as well. So put information into your ePortfolio and give that a go.